Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Spiral Up, and I'm your host, Nemo, and today's topic of discussion is going to be taking action. I may have spoken this before, maybe throughout previous podcasts, but there is something about taking action that is just super, super difficult. So, I wrote some notes here, and I'm going to just read off some of the things that I wrote, and then I wrote some questions, and then we can kind of discuss this and kind of just go off on my train of thought. So, taking action. Usually, we want to take action on a lot of things, right? But a lot of times we don't. We don't take action. Like, a lot of us know what we need to be doing, but we end up not doing whatever it is that we say we want to do. And I feel like I've said this many times, but that still doesn't change anything. It's easier said than done, right? It's easier to actually recognize what you aren't doing or what you are doing. Now, I don't want to put anything out there like that you should always be taking action, that you shouldn't just relax and enjoy like a movie or take a break or go on a walk or do whatever, right? But, in my previous podcast, if you didn't listen to it, but, sometimes a lot of people like to set goals, right? And you want to achieve them. Like, you want to change your situation, you want to, get a new promotion, you want to get a better job, you want to move, you want to save up money. The list goes on. Your particular end goal could change. It changes from person to person, right? And then, you could write that plan. You know exactly what you need to get, what you need to do to get to wherever it is that you need to go. But why aren't you able to take that first step? Why aren't you able to take action on this plan that you meticulously laid out to be able to achieve whatever goal it is? What is preventing you? I always ask myself that. What is preventing me from finishing this video? What is preventing me from going out running? What's preventing me from going to the gym? Apart from COVID-19, but what is preventing me from asking my boss for a raise? What is preventing me from asking this boy out or this girl out or whatever it is? Why aren't you doing what it is that you want to do when you know that whatever it is going to get you to where you want to go, right? Usually, you may say like, I'm scared of what people think. Or you might be in the camp where you don't care because you care so much. Think about that. Maybe you want validation. You want the recognition of your peers to recognize you first before you actually do what it is that you want to do. I think a lot of people get stuck in that boat. I know I do a few times. Like you want to, get that praise. You want to get the, the accolades from your peers, not only peers, but like what everybody wants, likes, followers, all that stuff, because it validates what you're doing. But when you don't get that, it makes it harder to keep going. But then it's like you kind of have to put in the work up front before you can receive all of that, right? But then why is it that we seek out other people's approval or we want their acknowledgement? Like, why do we care so much? And why do we internalize that a lot of the time? Because, at the end of the day, you may care, but nobody else really cares because everybody's stuck in that same situation, right? We all care about ourselves. Now, Obviously, that's a huge blanket statement. Obviously, people care about other people. You care about your family and stuff. But what I'm talking about is like whatever goals you have, whatever ideas or anything you're working towards, you whether it's your work promotion or doing the best this or being the best, mother, father. Everybody has their own thing, right? And we're like, internally, we're like, man, I want to be, the best in this, or I want to do the best work, or I want to do all this, right? And we're seeking this validation, but it's like everybody else is literally doing the same thing. Maybe I shouldn't say literally because I don't know what everybody else is thinking. Obviously, this is just me thinking, but everybody else has their own internalization, like that they're trying to focus on, right? So if we're focusing on ourselves, are we really paying attention to other people? Probably not to the extent that we pay attention to ourselves. So if that's the case, why are we so afraid to start something or take action on something? Because we're the only ones that are actually, focusing on our own, like, and anxiety. Anxiety is actually a good word to use. Actually, I think I want to talk about that later. Anxiety. Let me make note of that. But what I find also, that I know I do this a lot, and I think a lot of people do this, and it's seen in the media. It's seen literally across all sports, every field, every industry. We as people, as a society, as individuals, as a collective, as a human race, we focus a lot on what we didn't do, the bad things, the non-praise, the upset, the failures. We focus on the negative things way too much and make that such an apparent part of our daily narrative. Now, daily narrative, when you go on the news, you're going to see story after story, or whatever you get your news from, but pretty sure a majority of these stories are going to be negative. They're going to be, maybe gossip, maybe, crazy things that happen. Somebody said something crazy on Twitter. Somebody did something crazy on Instagram. The list goes on. And the way you can apply that to yourself, or the way that I'm going to share with myself, is, I focus on the things that I didn't do, right? So a great example is, I remember the first week I started journaling, which was around 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's been like 2.5 weeks. I missed like the 7th day or the 6th day. And I was beating myself up, like, oh my God, how could I miss one day? How could I be messed up? And obviously I have a system in place in my journal where if I miss a day, on the next day when I do journal, I'm going to just write quickly, why did I not journal on that particular day? So I was doing that, writing why I didn't journal. And I had to stop myself and look at what I was doing to myself. And, I've kind of realized this realization through my meditation practice. But I've realized that I like to focus on the negative things, the things I didn't do. So I'm focusing on this particular day that I didn't journal. Mind you, that week I journaled 6 days out of the 7 days. And that previous week I didn't journal at all. So, I should be actually giving myself praise. I should be like, yo, Nemo, yo, you just journaled for 6 days this week, 6 out of the 7 days. That's amazing. You weren't journaling at all before. Yeah, you may have missed one day, but don't miss 2 in a row. You did 6. You did 6 out of 7, But we always hang up on the things that we didn't do, right? It's like that's just one little blip. One little blip out of that whole week. And mind you, it's a week and a half later. It's like, why was I so, worked up on that? Now, this is something super small, right? This is just a journal. But people do this with huge chunks, things that occur in their lives. There's probably other instances where I focus on those particular instances where I did not take action, right? Where I did not do what I said I was going to do or what I wanted to do. But it's like, you can't get that time back. What's in the past is in the past, right? So then, why do we focus on that stuff? Do we find comfort in it? Is it because the effects of the negative, focusing on the negative things, focusing on the things that we didn't do, promotes some crazy dopamine response in our brain or triggers something that makes it a bit more exciting, so we kind of seek it, and it's easier to focus on that than all the good things? Or is it maybe we've been conditioned to do this, our whole lives? Actually, that is kind of true. Look at this. I'm having realizations, on, talking about this. Like when I'm thinking back to school, when I was in elementary school, middle school, high school, you're getting grades, right? You're taking tests. You miss 2 questions, right? And we focus on why you didn't get 100%, right? You're like, man, like I missed these 2. Oh, what were they? And then you're like fixated on it. Obviously, it's good to be like, to recognize like, oh, you missed this problem because you didn't know this, or, oh, you thought it was this, but it's actually this. So it's like, cool, it's a learning moment. But do we really take the time to be like, yo, good job on getting 18 out of 20. That was like legit. Like, you actually don't even worry about those 2 that you missed. 18 out of 20. What is that? 90%. That was really good. Good job. In the grand scheme of things, if you keep missing 2, it's fine. 18 out of 20. That's good. That's good. Yet we'll beat ourselves up on those 2 little questions. And, the praise you may receive from getting the questions right kind of fizzles away in a split second, like, especially in a class setting. Now I'm like in my head, like I see myself in a class and, we're all taking this test and everybody takes the test and everybody gets, pretty much everybody in the class, say everybody got 100% and then one person gets 1 question wrong, right? Fixated on this 1 question. And everybody's like, oh my God, you got that wrong. Oh my God, you got that wrong. They find amusement. They got it right. You got it wrong. You don't know why. So you ask the teacher, now that's like she's going over it, and it's like this one little instance becomes this big thing. And like now in your mind, you're like, I need to make sure that I get 100%. Like I got to get 100% this next time. I don't want, all this negative stuff to occur again. I don't want other kids, making fun of me for missing this one question. I don't want to be that guinea pig in the classroom where the teacher, goes up on the board and is like, oh, Jimmy over here missed this question, so we're going to revisit it, and we're going to, just go through the problem one more time, walk through it, and, everybody, like, you guys that have got the question right, it's okay, you guys should just sit there, but we're going to, make sure that, we focus on this. Like, how does that make little Jimmy feel, right? So now he has this, like, little chip on his shoulder, or I don't know, whatever you might want to call it, and 2 years, 5 years down the line, he's fixating on all the things that he's doing wrong because that's what everybody else fixates on, Yeah, dang, that's crazy. Like even when I played football growing up, football practice, the coaches are great about like giving praise. So like, oh, good job. Oh, you guys won this game. Oh, you hit good. Oh, you block good and stuff. But there is a hyper focus on the things that you do wrong. Like this, it's just an apparent thing because obviously you want to correct, the bad behavior. You want to, fixate on the things that you didn't do right so then you can perfect them. But do you think maybe this seeking perfection creates this weird illusion in our heads that we have to fixate on the things that we did wrong and not really give ourselves praise for the things that we've done right? So back to my journal example, 6 out of 7 days is damn good compared to 0 out of 7 days. Even 1 out of 7 days, is great. Meditating, people, may think it's very hard, but if you meditate once a week, once a month, that's way better than nothing at all, right? So I think fixating on what we're not doing, why we didn't do something, further immobilizes us from taking action. And I think I spoke on immobilization last week on that episode. And I think people don't realize that you're awesome, We as human beings, we're dope, We do so much good, yet we focus on so much negative. And it's like the negative is there, it's true. But I think people would be that much happier or excited or more focused if you just focus on, the good in you, like all the things you're doing right. Dang. Yeah. You could be working a job. You're doing great, clocking in on time and everything. And you may get one customer complaint because you may have like accidentally tripped and, dropped, I don't know, something in front of them. And, they wrote a thing, but everything else is super good. But that one instance is going to be highly fixated and focused on, despite everything else. And then it's going to be brought up and followed up again because it's like we got to make sure that that doesn't happen again, despite the previous track record and all the good things you've already done. You just got to make sure that you don't do that one thing again. So we're going to keep checking up on you because we've just completely lost all faith in you. Like, how does that make somebody feel? So then now I'm going to take this back a bit selfish again. Like, I've been doing that a lot where it's like, man, I should have, been edited that video. I should have, done, did all this, or I should have did this. But it's like, true, I didn't do it. Why didn't I do it? Oh, I was distracting myself. Oh, maybe I was just nervous from actually taking action, because I was having all this like self doubt, self judgment. Maybe I was just afraid of what other people were going to think if I put this out. So I decided not to do it. But let me actually, give myself praise for, being consistent so far with my podcast, coming out every Monday. Like this is pretty good. You're doing pretty good. And you know what? Actually, yesterday you edited for a good 2.5, 3 hours. You're almost finished with that video. And the other day you actually wrote some notes down for your next video idea. So that's really good, And I think that is something that can prevent people from taking action. And it's very, very interesting what scares people, especially when whatever it is good for you. Why is it so hard to do what is good for us? Why is it so hard to recognize the good things we're already doing for ourselves, on a day-to-day basis? Why is it so hard? And then this can lead into some crazy conspiracy theory and stuff where you're just like thinking, maybe it's just the way everything's conditioned because, and I'm saying they as in the media, the news, the entertainment industries, the, everyone that isn't yourself, they maybe want you to stay where you are. Like when you zoom out to, and maybe I can only speak on America since that's where, I'm living, grew up in. There has to be balances, right? Not everyone can want to be a musician, a rapper, an artist, a doctor. Like obviously, like the way things are, and this may be even deeper rooted to the complexities of the human race, and like it's deeply rooted into previous tribes and development and growth and technology and like all these other things. But it's like there has to be people who are okay with where they are, that are content, like they fully understand. They don't beat themselves up. There's people who are perfectly happy doing what they're doing. And there's people who want more. There's people who want less. There's people who are super ambitious. There's people who are super patient. Everything is so complex and so simple at the same time that it's just so fascinating. I feel like every episode I end up talking like I'm some like I'm like some like I'm the Dollar Tree Neil deGrasse Tyson, except he talks like I can't do impersonations. I was about to try and do a Neil deGrasse Tyson, but okay, let me get back on track. It's I feel like I'm speaking on like psychology and stuff, but taking action. Have you really wrote down the specifics on why you aren't taking action. You may have your plan and everything, but have you sat and looked at that question or even asked yourself that question? So, why aren't you taking action? What aren't you taking action on? I want you to just think about that, sit on that for a little bit, because we're going to have a quick break here. And when we come back, I think I have came across some gems of information, some good value that, I find it insightful for myself. So I'm just going to share it with you guys, and maybe it'll help you learn to take action. So we're gonna stay on this topic. We're gonna dive into that after this quick little break. So don't go anywhere. And why aren't you taking action? Okay, we are back, and topic at hand: why aren't you taking action? Right? Why? What do you think it is? What do you think the main reason? And lately, I've been thinking. I think it's uncertainty. Everybody feels uncertain, which prevents them from taking action. It's pretty simple, right? But now it's like, what do you mean by that? Like, you might be thinking to yourself, like, am I good enough? Am I actually behind? And like, how do you know if you're actually uncertain about something, right? So earlier I asked, why aren't you taking action? Or what are you doing specifically instead of taking action? A lot of people end up saying they're going to procrastinate, or they're not ready, or they may distract themselves. These are all, you're uncertain about whatever action it is. Like, it's good for you. This is the plan you need to do. This is what's going to get you to wherever you need to go, or this is going to make you happy, or this is going to get me my promotion, or this is going to get me that date. You know what you need to do, but you aren't doing it because you're uncertain of the outcome. We're afraid if we're going to fail. We're afraid if it's not going to happen, right? But it's like, you never know until you try. And if you don't try, you're never going to know. So we tend to distract ourselves. We procrastinate. And I know I had a ton of uncertainty about, doing the creative that I particularly want to do. And the way I really kind of figured this out, or like realized that I'm avoiding this uncertainty, is I would always say, or I need to do this and this, or I need to get the right stuff, or I need to be, write all this. I need to have these prerequisites, and then I'll be ready to do whatever it is. I need to get this lens before I can start filming. I need to get this light before I can start filming. I need to get this computer before I can start writing. I need to get this pen before I can start, journaling. I need to get this journal before I can actually, start journaling. I need to get these clothes before I can actually start talking about clothes. That's where I found myself in the realm of uncertainty. I felt like I couldn't start on whatever it is that I wanted to do because I don't have all the prerequisites to be able to do all those things, right? And me diving into the whole minimalism genre really helped me kind of streamline that, because before I had my current camera that I'm filming everything on, I used to shoot with Canon. I had like 3 different lenses, and I was like, oh, I need to get this one just to do this before, so I could get this extra shallow depth of fit. Like, you just start, thinking about everything else instead of actually doing the thing, instead of taking action, distracting yourself, procrastinating. But it's because of the uncertainty. We all have uncertainty. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. And now there's this great quote by Chogyam Trungpa. He is a Buddhist meditation master. I think he passed away in the 1980s. And if you get into Buddhism and read those books and stuff, I mean, he's a particularly controversial individual. So in your own time, if Buddhism if it interests you, like some of their principles and stuff, you can do your own research. I mainly did research since, I've started meditating. I wanted to, kind of understand meditation more, and more information can't hurt you. But he has this one quote that I find very fascinating, that can really put things in perspective, that most people, I think, when you're going to hear this, you're going to be like, wow, that makes sense. So Chogyam Trungpa said, the bad news is you're falling in the air. We're all falling in the air with no parachute. But the good news is there is no ground. Think about that. You're falling through the air with no parachute. That's, we're all doing that right now. But the good news is there is no ground. What do you think of when you hear that? Because for me, if I'm falling through the air without a parachute, I'm panicking. I'm like, yeah, just like falling through, like that is stressful. But you're so focused on the act of falling and not being able to grasp onto anything, no safety. You're like, oh my God, you're like, I'm gonna die, or you're running through all these things, you're panicking. But when in reality, there's no ground. There's no end. You're going to continue to fall. So why not embrace what you're doing? Why not, turn over, take a deep breath, spread out your arms, look around, enjoy the view, enjoy the fall, fall over to the left, go to the right, go through that cloud, go through the other cloud, like enjoy the journey. Crazy. Interesting quote, right? But we want to get comfortable before we take action. But that's the problem. The uncertainty is going to be there. You won't be comfortable. That's the point of falling through the air with no parachute. That's not comfortable. Whether there's a ground or no ground, even if there's no ground, that's still not comfortable. Like, how are you actually going to feel? So we want to get comfortable before we take action. We want there to be no uncertainty, because we want to make sure that whatever it is that we're doing is going to provide the results that we want. And there may be, sometimes in the past where we took action, but the outcome wasn't what we wanted. But we ultimately can't control the outcome. We can really only relax and, thrive in the uncertainty. Recognize that oh, we're uncertain about this, but that's the best reason for us to do it. So then once we do it over or whatever it is, then it's not going to be uncertain anymore. It's not going to be uncomfortable because then you're going to see the results. Now, sometimes the results may be super delayed, but we kind of live our lives through this lens, right? We want to be sure, we want to be super prepared that if I do this thing, this is going to be the result. If I meet these numbers, I'm going to get the promotion. If I say this joke, I'm going to get the date. But life does not work that way. It does not. Things are uncertain. And I have to come to terms with that, right? I don't know what's going to happen when I upload this, but I know that I'm enjoying this process and I like getting these thoughts out there. I like hearing myself talk about this and flesh out these thoughts that are in my head. And I know that a year from now, I can look back on this and be like, yo, I appreciate that. I'm uncertain about what I'm doing, but it doesn't matter because it's what I want to do. This is the process, right? Like we're on this spiral up where you are uncertain about the future. Literally, I could get struck by lightning in 30 minutes. I have no idea. It's uncertain. But we can do everything we can to enjoy where we are, what we're doing right now. Thrive in the uncertainty. I have a question for you guys. Now, really think about this because this can help with the fear or the uncertainty. And it can really maybe put things into perspective on whatever it is that you want to do and why you're not taking action. But what would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail? What would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail? And sometimes people don't even think about that. You may not have even asked yourself that question. What would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail? And whatever it is, you should do that thing right now, immediately, because you're not going to fail. And you can't tell me that you're not going to fail. Scratch that. You can't tell me that you are going to fail. Because why? The future is uncertain. So if you can't tell me that whatever it is that you would do isn't going to fail or it is going to fail, why aren't you doing it? Right? That's the unlock. That's the thing. That's what taking action is going to do. Because you're not going to fail. And who's to say whatever outcome it is failure? You put that in yourself. You put that in your mind, right? Like that example I said earlier with my journal. 6 out of 7, I could say that's a failure. But it's not a failure. It's a win. I journaled 6 out of 7 days. That's a win. There's no failure there. I mean, you can interpret that as a failure because I missed one day. But that's the thing. You can make it seem like it's a failure or not. You can start a business, grow it up to $100,000 company, and it completely go bankrupt. And, some people may call it a failure, but will you call it a failure? Or you can call it a learning experience. It wasn't a failure because you learned all these things about growing a business, and now your next business is going to be twice as big because you've already went through it the first time. Perspective. Think about it. What would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail? What would I do if I knew I wouldn't fail? Everything that I'm doing. Well, I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing that. I think that the one thing that I would want to do if I knew I wouldn't fail would be traveling, but that's a very tough thing right now. You know, if I could travel, I would. And technically, I can, but then, like I said, anything. I mean, there's so many technicalities with anything. You know, that's like a health concern. That's like, all this other stuff, but we can't control life, but we can control ourselves. We should relax, enjoy our time here. Things are going to be uncertain. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen next week, next month, a year from now, 5 minutes from now. You can make highly educated guesses, I guess, but we allow this uncertainty to prevent us from taking action when it shouldn't. It shouldn't. And any failure isn't really a failure. That's just what you're calling it. But it's not. Like I said when at the very beginning of this podcast, why do we care so much about these things? Why do we care? Okay, well, I think I might be done for today because I don't want to keep rambling on. I think that was very valuable. I think there are some good gems in there. So if you've learned anything, you know the drill. If you could go to my YouTube channel, it's going to be linked down below, and you can leave a comment there. Maybe whatever insight, whatever was your favorite thing that you learned, or if you're going to share this with someone, I would greatly appreciate it. If you can rate this video, if you're watching the video version, hit that subscribe button and hit the thumbs up, smash that like button, 2020 style. Shout out to Peter McKinnon. But if you are listening to the podcast, please leave a rating on Spotify, iTunes, whatever platform, and write a review so then people can see that there is value in this podcast. Because you received value, that means they may receive value. But I just wanted to get those thoughts out there, because taking action, that's the next thing. Like if you figure out your goal, what you want, you write a plan, it could be very hard to take that first step because you're uncertain if it's actually going to work. You're uncertain if the business idea is going to work, if this is going to fail. But who's to say it's going to fail? And who says it's a failure? Only you. And maybe the people around you, but you don't care. You don't need to care about those people. They aren't you. You feel how you feel. You know what you know. Okay. Get out of your guys' hair. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you guys for listening. And as always, you found me. And until next time, peace.